Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show. I am doing this on Thursday, December the 4th. I found out that only about half of you listened to the show on the day that we put it out there. So this may be a different day for you. Welcome to our program. I was just rubbing my eyes. I was I was kind of hoping that there would be just a normal day where I could talk about things that I thought were interesting, which is that there's this horrific, nasty social media grifter running for Congress in my district, which is interesting. I actually didn't realize that Valentina Gomez, who is a complete fraud, was looking for a job in the 31st. I thought she was in the 33rd district, but she's actually running in my district, which I guess is why I've been seeing all these signs, which were making me mad when I was going to dinner with my parents. I thought we could talk about that. We could talk about accuracy and audience size and sort of the nature of these Psyops, which is that people seem to believe that if a lot of people listen to you, that means that you're right. My buddy Ryan Matta is deep into that crowd. If the algorithm favors what you're putting out, then what you're putting out must be good. I'm here to tell you that is not the truth, people. It's never been the truth. In fact, I would suggest to you, because the mob is the one that put Jesus Christ to death. Actually, it's pretty obvious to me that if the mob agrees with you and if the vast majority of people get in line with some things, you're probably being sold a bill of goods. There's probably something ugly happening. You should always question mainstream narratives. You should question what everybody around you thinks. If you're not doing that, you're doing yourself a disservice. There used to be this, like one of those motivator posters, and it was supposed to encourage dissent. By the way, no company loves dissent, and certainly no government agency does. But there used to be this idea that if we all think the same way, then somebody is not thinking. We have a nation of people that, generally speaking, say those words and then vehemently disagree with them and vote and act the opposite way. And so the power of mass consensus is very strong. It turns out it was an actual thing that the founders of this country, the framers of our Constitution, were trying to avoid. They were like, the mob is stupid. The more people you get together, the lower the average IQ, the lower the common denominator of the bigger the group. And so we don't want democracy. We don't want everybody out there who has an opinion to have an equal weight of their opinion because they're not equally valuable. They're not. Period. The end. Non-negotiable. The bigger the group, the dumber the group on average. And the more likely it is you can get people to do dumb things. I'll give you January 6th as a great example of that. On January 6th, people who were otherwise intelligent, who spent their life making decent and good choices, some made really bad choices outside of all of their normal parameters and done differently than the rest of their entirety of their existence would have proved them to be as human beings. And it's unfair to judge them that way because they were part of a big crowd, some of whom were nefarious actors, some of whom were just dumb, some of whom came there because that's what they wanted. And other people who got caught up in the moment. The bigger the crowd, the dumber the crowd. Pretty much always. That's how you can get people to do the chicken dance at a wedding or at a baseball game. Chicken dance is dumb. It's not even a dance. And people will do it. Why? Because everybody else is doing it. It's fun. Now you're on camera for the rest of your life on the big candid Jumbotron. Squawking like this. You know, you would never do that if you're a serious person in real life. And it's not even interesting. So we're going to talk about that. And all of my plans were derailed as I started off today's show. I was about ready to start loading up all the video clips that I had. And then Scott McFarlane, who has very long fingers and very soft looking skin and an elongated neck. Scott McFarlane, who has this sort of fake polished TV voice for CBS, announced a groundbreaking discovery. The FBI has apparently arrested somebody in connection with the January 6th pipe bomb. No further information. An entire story about the January 6th pipe bomb case, which only illustrates that for 4+ years, We've been lied to by the FBI for the last 9 months in the new FBI. We've gotten no information. My friend Steve Baker went out there and blew the case open with information, with actual credible evidence, things that aligned with fact patterns, including things that nobody else could explain away, including me. I have an entire page of notes over here, which we'll go over, which I didn't plan on doing today, but I might do right now. And then CBS debunked the story with no official word from the FBI using puppies. I'm not making that part up. If you guys follow social media, you already know puppies were the solution to the woman who fits all the parameters, who was in the time and the place and had access and had potentially motivation and now works for the CIA. All of this stuff, puppies. And then they found a guy, and the word we're hearing is maybe this guy is some sort of anarchist type. I'm going to destroy that because it's so easy. Because there is an actual investigation behind that. So we're watching to find out what sort of bullshit is going to be slung by our mainstream media. But just remember this. Audience size does not equal accuracy. It does not. The size of the audience listening probably actually indicates something a little bit less discerning. Which is why you could use a narrative like puppies. Puppies are the reason. And people are like, well, I love puppies. All right. So what other things are we going to talk about? Because it's not going to be that. National Guard. We had a big snafu. We've reintroduced the conversation about vetting Afghan refugees and parolees and people who came here that probably should not be here at all. And we're going to try to reach out to that big mainstream audience and make you all feel sympathy for the people that shouldn't be here by including them in the people that might belong here. I've got a story from MS Now, formerly MSNBC, and a woman named Kristen Rouse, who is a interesting figure in and of herself. We'll kind of cover that a little bit because I think who wrote it also makes sense. It's an op-ed about serving in Afghanistan and why we shouldn't betray our allies. So I want to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Affordable Care Act, which continues to pop up, even as now, like I said, I got a friend who just had a baby. So we're talking about vaccines the other day. We are going to discuss the Affordable Care Act in so much as it's about to get not affordable, like everything that government touches. Maybe insurance is not the answer for you. I don't know. You guys have to decide what your own risk level is. Pentagon Watchdog Group is has ruled that the Signal chat Pete Hegseth was involved in. You remember Signalgate, that he was texting with people, including a journalist, that did not, in fact, break the law. There was, in fact, no classified information, but it did potentially violate regulations. The top regulator is, in fact, the guy who did it. Interesting story. Fraud in Minnesota. Social services fraud, Tim Waltz, and the watch on the Somalis. So again, a little piece of this, a lot of sympathy, a lot of people out there trying to do some messaging. And then lastly, we're going to do a little bit of this pipe bomber case because I found a story that says the United States has increased the award for a Tren de Aragua leader. I don't know why I did the voice. Tren de Aragua gang leader to $5 million. That's not $500,000. That is fully 10x that. This is what the FBI puts out when they actually want to catch somebody. $5 million. This is what the United States government puts on the line when they think, hey, maybe you'd betray your own family member for $5 million. Or they have the bullshit award, which is $500,000 for 5 years and nobody can detect you. So that's where we're going to go with today's program. And I hope that, like I said, it kind of derailed me, but I think we're going to have some fun with it. Let's first talk about my friends over at Patriot Coolers who are fueling today's fire. Yes, it is the wood-grained 20-ounce tumbler. This is a staple in my house. I use the 20 ounces as much as anything else. I've gone from 19 to 20 and handle to no handle when I'm doing my coffee. Patriot Coolers is the website. Patriot Coolers with an S on the end.com is the website. We're coming into Christmas season. Maybe you guys are interested in getting a gift for someone that nobody will refuse and nobody will feel bad about. And if you've never seen it, I'll show you when we click away from the screen. But I do have the boxes behind me. You know what? Grab it. Let me just grab it from off scene. Look at this. These actually present really, really well. They're great for gift giving because when they pop up, they're patriotic branded. They've got the actual product on there. They've got facts. This is like a guys box in many ways, but women also. Look, it's got pretty flags and stars. Anyhow, they do a really good job with both packaging and with the actual product itself. When you receive it, you're always happy with it. It's 10% off if you use my name, KYLE. If you guys want to buy one that has one of the Suspendables badges on it, check them out. If you want to do a bulk buy for your employees or something to that effect, then you can reach out. They actually have a customization where you can give them a logo and they'll etch it on. But generally speaking, most of you, patriotcoolers.com is the website. Promo code KYLE is the way to get it, and you'll get free shipping over $50. That's all. They've been with us for so long. I keep bringing it up, and I know it's some people have probably just joined us and have never heard of them before. If you're in the market for like a tumbler, like a Yeti type thing, if you're in the market for a cooler, these are our guys. We use them literally every day in our household. And I don't advertise for people that I don't use. I actually bought their stuff and used them on duty. I guess I've forgotten to add that into my reads of late. I actually used them on duty when I was working for the FBI. My first purchase from them, I think, was in October of 2017 or 2018. It was really, really early on. It was right when the company launched. And we started using them, and I took them to work all the time, and I still have my Gen 1s. They've gone into Gen 2s and 3s. They're good products. And you'll keep using them. Again, I've been using mine for like coming on 7 years now. So check out Patriot Coolers. All right, let's get into today's program. Let's see where we go with this one. It's going to be interesting. All right, and I have to put stuff back on the box there. I can't have it not be up there on the shelf. If you're just listening, you don't know what I'm talking about, but I just replaced things on the backdrop sitting back there. This is a real fake wall is what it is. All right, story number 1. The Afghan National Guard shooting was horrific, but vilifying Afghans is wrong. And it's written by a lady. The lady's name is Kristen Roche. She says, one does not need to be an Army veteran who served in Afghanistan and a former National Guard soldier, as I am, to want to hold accountable the subject or suspect in the shooting of 2 National Guard members in Washington, D.C. last week, as well as to seek broader solutions to prevent further extremist violence. It's always interesting how these things get put together, isn't it? Should I just lead with the front part of this thing and who this woman actually is? Yeah, let's just lead with that. If you're wondering who she is, there she is. She doesn't even look like what you thought, does she? She's got the same haircut or darn near the same haircut that I do. And in the pictures of her professional, whatever you call this, her professional photographs and headshots, she's wearing men's clothing, kind of like the governor of Oregon. And I didn't look any further into her personal background other than her professional work. But that just gives you kind of a taste of who we're reading from here. I'll go back to the story. For 3 years, Congress has had the chance to pass the Afghan Adjustment Act, which would ensure more stringent vetting of Afghan evacuees, but it's failed to do so. Well, wait a minute. I know that the Republicans had the House, but what I consider kind of a no-go is that the person who brought all those folks here and sort of the leader of the country didn't want that for 3 years because he didn't want to acknowledge the absolute failure that exists when you bring in a bunch of people who have no business being in our nation. And that would be Joe Biden, as we like to call him here. That's J with an apostrophe, Biden. Joe Biden. She goes on to do what's called an argument to an authority, which is that she is a former soldier. 2 of my 3 tours in the U.S. Army in Afghanistan were as an Army National Guard soldier. So she knows what Army National Guard soldiers think. As I can pretty much assure you, that's what it looks like. That's the face of the Army National Guard, right? Maybe not. Maybe it's a dude with a mustache like you're seeing as we see the troops here. This is the CNN picture from it. They're all standing out in front of them, like an MRAP or something similar. It's all dudes, some with mustaches. They all have similar athletic builds. Not one of them is a lady with a men's haircut. Doesn't mean that there's not women in the Guard. I'm just saying. For her to appeal to that authority is quite interesting. When she was deployed, her Afghan interpreters wore the same uniform as she did. We partnered on missions with our counterparts in the Afghan army, and we relied on each other. Yes, and some of those Afghan translators ended up getting people killed. There are numerous stories of it. So some were good apples and some were bad apples. This is obviously the case. But what we've done here is an emotional appeal. And this is the broadest possible. Can we make you feel bad about people in America because of America's sins? This is a classic left-leaning move. Can we get you to agree with us simply because you feel bad? It's an emotional appeal. And we could have done something about it, but it wasn't done. And therefore, it's actually your fault, America, that people who didn't belong in this country did things that should have never been done because they should have never been in this country in the first place. I will go back to the nonpartisan whistleblower activity that I did in October of 2021 when I brought this information to my congresswoman. Certainly, they were people in Afghanistan that would do well in America, and we would do well to have them. But what was the cost? For me, it's really straightforward and simple. I'm an America only guy. I don't care about Afghanistan. I don't need to bring people from a Muslim faith, from a Muslim country with completely backwards ideas. Even the most advanced part of Afghanistan does not look anything like the suburbs that I lived in and that I've lived in around this country. I've lived in California. I've lived in Virginia. I've lived in Florida. I've lived in Connecticut. And I've lived in Texas. And I've lived in Kansas. We could do the Howard Dean and we go around, woo, right? I've lived all over this nation. I've lived in states all over the place. None of them were like, you know what we need in this world? Afghans. If we could just get a couple of Afghans to live here, then everything would be better. And yet that appeal lands on certain people like my mother-in-law, who brought in an Afghan guy who has nothing to do with the United States military. Nothing at all. And all of his children. And they didn't speak the language. And he's a freaking potter. He makes pottery with his hands, which is amazing. I'm sure you should do that. Do it not here. Do it not in Connecticut. Because what on earth is that going to add of value to me as an American when I pay my tax dollars? Why do my dollars need to go to supporting you when you had nothing to do with the war effort or anything else? And honestly, the interps, is there not a second country that was a little bit more appropriate? It's like taking a tiger and trying to raise them. Oh, they're from the jungle. And that's why we're going to now have them in our zoo in Minnesota. And you're like, what? Does the tiger normally deal with snow? No, but it was unsafe where it was. And it feels good to have it in this cage. It just doesn't make any sense. You can look at it and go, that's really incongruous. These two things don't go together, this environment and this particular creature. Human beings are the same way. And it's really weird to act like they're not. Like you can just put a person anywhere and they might thrive. Culturally, linguistically, like financially, they don't have any bearing. And what is it going to take? It takes an entire small Connecticut city to raise some of the people, like one family that my mother-in-law helped bring in. And they were so proud of themselves. And of course they were. All the women have the same sensibilities like this. They're the same people that were mistaking the size of the audience appeal for the accuracy of the thing they were saying. Just because everybody feels good about it doesn't make it right. And it doesn't mean that it makes any bit of sense. I just want to continue down just a little bit further. That story is about as much as it needs to be done. But I just wanted to tell you why I immediately ruled out any value of what this woman had to say. Her hometown is Florida. This is from Legistorm. If you guys have never seen this website, it's very, very useful. Legistorm is it's a depository of the backgrounds and the salaries and the associations that someone might have in politics. So you can run through and you can read this stuff and you can find out about them. Her official biography is not linked to her biography. That's kind of funny. Her employment history goes as follows. Most recently, she is the Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America Managing Director. And before that, she worked for a year as a deputy district director for Representative Dan Goldman of New York, who's one of the worst congressmen, who's one of the nastiest, grossest people in Congress in so much as he's he's worth like hundreds of millions of dollars, essentially bought his way into that office. And he went really hard against FBI whistleblowers. So we're not a big fan of that guy. She also used to work for the New York State Division of Veteran Services. And then before that, emergency management in New York City as well. So she's a New Yorker, even though her hometown is Florida, whatever town that is. Do you guys know the town of, maybe there's a Florida, New York that I'm not aware of. Then I did her military history, which they put on here. For 10 years, she was in the Army Reserves as a medical logistics specialist and sergeant. That was her rank. And then for a couple years, she was also, it looks like she might have been in the mainstream part of the Army. She actually went active duty, was in Afghanistan in 2006. Again, sergeant, enlisted, I assume in the same career field. And then it claims that since 2007 until 2021, she was a first lieutenant in the National Guard, which strikes me that she probably didn't have that much time in service during that time because she wasn't able to promote beyond. I'm pretty confident it's second lieutenant and first lieutenant. Those are like, 2 years each before you get promoted onward, and she didn't make it out of there. That's a weird thing. Maybe somebody in the Army can explain to me that knows more about the Guard or knows more about the Reserve, because I don't. But I don't know how you don't promote past it. As I famously remember, one of my buddies who was he was an E6 in the Air Force and then commissioned. And when he got his commissioned, and he was one of us. He was like always an enlisted guy mentally. he commissioned, and the general gave him the salute and, pinned on his bars or whatever, and it was like, congratulations, Lieutenant, take care of your men, they'll take care of you. And he famously said, thank you very much, sir. Just hoping I make it to captain. Because he would buck the system regularly for enlisted guys. Like, he was the officer you wanted. And the general stepped past him and then did that kind of weird step where they grab their waist and pivot back in front of him. He goes, Lieutenant, promotion to captain is automatic. And he said, that's what they say, sir. We'll see if it's true. Like, those are the kind, I don't know. You guys tell me. Like, I know guys that didn't make it out of that space. Like, they didn't make it to captain, even though it's an automatic promotion. Maybe this lady was in the same story. But I just found it interesting. I also love that the worst leftist appeal goes directly to that story. And this program today is going to basically focus on women who actually just look like that lady or sound like that lady, even if we think they're on our side. They make these ridiculous emotional appeals that go to the broadest and lowest common denominator. And I got a really good one, because it's ongoing. It's an ongoing issue. Our mainstream, which regularly is full of crap, doesn't ever apologize. They don't ever go back on their word and go like, you know what? We really blew it. They always just double down. I'm going to give you a great example. How many of us have realized that the entire Russia PP tape thing, many of you guys used to listen to Dan Bongino when he was doing a podcast, and you've heard all of those stories. And you know that they couldn't substantiate it. It was opposition research funded by another political party, and it was really improper. And the way they went about it was totally legal, by the way. But they did something that all of us would think would be pretty unethical. And the mainstream picked it up and they ran with it. Why? They had an agenda. They wanted to accomplish it. They have an agenda with the story of the Afghan refugees. We want to make sure we keep them here. Why is that? Because there are more people who suckle at the government teat, which means we need more government. Again, the solution to every problem for the left is more government, and the solution to governmental created problems is more government for the right. Are we on the same page here? The quote unquote uniparty? Go to the chat. The solution is always more government for both political parties. That's why we call them a uniparty. It doesn't mean they have exactly the same values. It means they have the same solutions. On the left, all problems can be solved by government, aka the government. Pray to your government for cheaper healthcare, better housing, better outcomes for people who are LGBTQ, whatever, safety in places that we have no business, intervening in. That's the left. And then over here on the right, this is my right hand. The right hand says, we created all the problems with government. The solution is going to be more government. My favorite is exactly this answer. It's the Inspector General argument. Who watches the watchmen is the more broad question, right? The right-wing solution is, we have a government that is out of control. We should create a governmental agency to look into the government to make sure the government stays in control. And you just get turtles all the way down. That references that every solution to the government problem is government. None of it is destroy the damn thing and let's just see what happens when the people do it on their own, or take it down to a lower level. Look, why don't we just get it out of the federal system and take it down to... No, it's never that. It's never like, why don't we just let the local people handle the problem in a bathroom? Why don't we just let the local people decide how they want to govern their own communities? No, never. It's always more government at the federal level. It's always that we investigated ourselves and we found ourselves to be not guilty, or we were in violation of policy, but not in violation of law. And so it's just a difference without any particular distinction. All of this is to say that these people, they all are cut from the same cloth and they don't ever have to apologize. That's amazing. You never have to apologize if you have a big enough audience. You never have to say, I'm sorry, I was incorrect. Because in the same idea that like might equals right, for a lot of people on both the left and the right, it's a very tribal instinct. Audience size equals accuracy. And if people are paying you to do it, must be good. It must be. That's the only reason why we still have a Rachel Maddow out there. And she's still pushing the PP tape nonsense. She's still pushing that Donald Trump actually works on behalf of the Kremlin. It's a really wild perspective to hold. I don't know how you hold on to it in 2025, but she does it. And listen to the clapping. So do plenty of others. This is how I know that we're kind of cooked. This is how I know that I would rather work against democracy. Broadly speaking, I would like less people involved in the franchise. I would like less people because then I have less liabilities of dumb people making things like this real, making things like Valentina Gomez real, making things like Afton Brennan or whatever her name was, the gal that just lost the election in the special vote in Tennessee, whose concession speech was to call up the guy that won and nag him and say, but also all of my ideas. Like, she just did a concession speech. I listened to that and I was like, good God, why would you even take that call? I'd be like, nope. I think that the answer has to be more men just hanging up the phone or walking away from horribly stupid stuff. Or you could be like Stephen Colbert and you could cheer it on and you could clap. And so this is the example. It doesn't even have to do with the stories we're talking about. It's just another example of audience size equals accuracy. Why would they do that? By the way, here's the story. Daily Beast. Trump makes embarrassing confession about Putin as peace flops. I don't think he can fix this problem because it's a problem that exists for centuries. It's a problem that I don't actually care about. I get the impression that even though he said he did, it's probably not his top priority. It'd be nice if we didn't spend that kind of money on it. It's just like, it's not, why would it be an American priority? Here's what they don't acknowledge. There's a war there because we had a weak, corrupt former president. That's why. And why would you lean heavily on what Russia wants when you go to Ukraine? I mean, I'm not a geopolitics guy. I would just tell you that if there's a really, really strong guy and he wants to have something, and there's a really, really weak person, and the only way the weak person even stays in the fight is if I have to stand there, I'm going to be like, what's the strong guy want? Can we just give it to him? Because I don't want to be here. I don't want to fight. I don't want to be part of this. How do I get out of this? Okay. Can you agree to some of the things that this guy wants? Yeah, of course that's what you would do. Which, by the way, goes towards that leftist idea. They love it when they have the power. Might equals right. Audience size equals accuracy. And they hate it in this case. In any case, almost the exact same story and the exact same face is that appeal, that emotional appeal. Like, we said the right thing. We're morally right. I just want to do back to back only because we just did Rachel Maddow. Can I play this lady? She is a local newscaster. It's going to just tease out the story. We're going to talk about the Somalis. It's this weird look and this strange sort of appeal that we're going to use American instincts and sort of like this feeling, the same sort of nostalgia that I think launched the MAGA idea, which is that, there is an America, there's an ideal of America, and we should aspire to it. And so they always use it whenever there's an emotional appeal, but they never want to do it to actually defend America itself. It always seems misguided. It's always on the outside. It's always like, how do we apply American ideas and shame you into doing something that doesn't actually benefit you? It's kind of amazing. It would have benefit America to be not involved in Ukraine at all. I think that us not being involved in conflict benefits me. So I don't care if Russia wins or doesn't win. I don't. Here's a lady that looks exactly like Rachel Maddow. Literally looks exactly like Rachel Maddow. They could be related. And she's making an emotional appeal about that super important part of the Constitution and our governing structure, the poem on the bottom of the Statue of Liberty. You guys remember how that is codified in government, right? It's not. It's just a gift that came from France. Huh.
The vast majority of Somali folks here are American citizens. They're people who fled war in their country as refugees to start a new life. Once upon a time, that was a story America liked to tell about itself. Hell, it's emblazoned on the Statue of Liberty. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. To breathe free. Minnesotans by the thousands cannot tonight. Perhaps sitting in fear, even with legal status, and that their president called them garbage. We'll see you tomorrow night. Take care.
That is our emotional appeal. How dare you, people from Minnesota, who are beefy, heavy-set, salt of the earth American people who scratched and living out of like the freaking coldest barren plains. How dare you not welcome and also consider amongst your ranks a bunch of skinny desert dwellers from Somalia? Like, how does that go over other than it hits a certain emotional appeal to a bunch of people that are good-hearted? She just said that American citizens are not safe at home. Like, that's obviously not true. unless they got here by means of deception and fraud, which turns out to be a pretty culturally relevant thing based on the mass scale of the fraud that we're going to talk about in Minnesota. Luckily, the politicians realize that that's a huge voting block. And so they've decided to side with the fraudsters and the people that came here that do not add value necessarily. The funniest thing about saying that refugees came here is that we can look back and go like, yeah, I remember a bunch of Vietnamese people when I was growing up. They all spoke English. In fact, the ones that I knew were all in the Catholic Church. They were all part of the church that I was part of. So we shared a religion. We shared a general cultural understanding. They had businesses, whether it be a dry cleaning place or a restaurant or a store or whatever, some sort of service business, tailor shop. Some of the best tailors, I think, were all Vietnamese that I dealt with, especially in the military. They wanted to make money. And so how did they do it? They did it by speaking to other Americans who had the money, and then they became part of our society. I remember walking through Chinatown when I lived in San Francisco. I lived in San Francisco, in the city, right out of college. And I'd walk into Chinatown, and everybody around me is like speaking in Mandarin or maybe Cantonese, I don't know. And they're all speaking Chinese. And I'm looking at signs that are in Chinese, but there's Arabic numerals, so I can see the price, but I don't know what the hell I want jasmine rice, and I don't know if that's jasmine rice, but it looks like it might be. And I look at it for a minute, and then somebody comes up who looks like a 1,000-year-old woman from China, and she speaks English because she wants to sell things to me, this guy who has money, because that's how you assimilate into the culture. Now, they may have stayed in a cultural enclave inside the city, but they learned how to do commerce and business, which is part of the assimilation process. And then their kids grew up listening to American music and American television and American style dress, and they spoke English without an accent. And guess what? Now you're part of the America. Or you could be like these clowns that keep speaking Somali or whatever the hell that language is to the police chief, and they make the mayor of Minneapolis, Minnesota, which should have been in my lifetime the whitest city in America, as far as I could tell. Just blanched out whiteness. And that guy is now struggling to say words in a language that is basically indecipherable. Pretty interesting. We're going to do a quick read for one of our sponsors here. This is My Patriot Supply. Maybe you are also thinking that things could go sideways. I often think that is the case. I generally live in a sort of pessimistic worldview. So we also live in a time when we are dealing with Christmas, and you may want to give a gift. And so you can be both a pessimistic, prepper-minded person and also give the gift of safety in the form of food security. MyPatriotSupply.com/KYLE is the website. Right now, they are doing a buy one, get two free Christmas special. It's a great special to check out all month long. You can buy an emergency food kit for yourself. You'll get 2 more food kits to give as gifts. Maybe you're the bug in and they are the bug out people. That works. That works just fine. Maybe you've got some parents, or maybe you got some friends or neighbors who haven't really gotten the idea that, hey, maybe we should have a solution, and knocking on Kyle's door is not the solution. That's right. 4-week emergency food kit for yourself. They throw in 2 one-week emergency food kits, absolutely free, that you can give as gifts. They're perfect gifts for anybody who's on your preparedness list, or who is not yet, who needs a little nudge in that direction. These days, it does make sense to store something away, because you never know when there's going to be a bunch of hungry Somalis running through your city. Or maybe they stole billions of dollars from your company or country, and we're about to go bankrupt on that stuff because of the stupidity of the fraud. You're getting a unique and meaningful Christmas gift. You can give it to friends or family, and they're free right now. Head to mypatriotsupply.com/KYLE. If you're watching on the television, which some of you do, you can actually scan it with your phone right now, the QR code that is right in the middle of the screen, and that will work as well. I don't know if it works if you only have a phone in your hand. I think you'd need another phone as well. This is for a limited time only during the holiday season, so go to mypatriotsupply.com/KYLE/Kyle and check it out. It's worth your time. Let's talk about other frauds. I just feel like that's where we're at right now. 1 in 4 Americans said that the Affordable Care Act would likely cause them to have to get a cheaper policy if the premiums double. Well, that makes a lot of sense. If things become too expensive, then you have to find something less expensive. All of this goes into the same attitude of nonsense. They got Obamacare through based on what? The government's going to solve your problems of healthcare. Healthcare is expensive. Maybe you don't have a great job that provides healthcare. That used to be the reason to get a better job. And then they were like, just kidding. Everybody will pay for it for a limited time only. And then it goes back up to the original cost, which you can't afford. And neither can this country. So we're going to need to keep taking your money to be able to subsidize it, or you're going to have to get something cheaper. 1 in 4 Americans covered by the ACA or the Affordable Care Act are considering going without health insurance if their monthly premiums double next year. I will personally recommend this plan. for many of you who do not use doctors on a regular basis, who do not walk around with a health problem, who think maybe I should just eat good foods, maybe I should take care of my own body, maybe I should do physical fitness and walk and do a little bit of time in the gym, maybe I should work outdoors with my hands, maybe I should do anything other than sitting around and waiting for the government to take care of me with more pills. If that's you, maybe no health insurance is not the worst thing in the world. You can also get catastrophic coverage only, which is like car accidents and major accidents. You can do that. It's a thing. The more that we make that fix, the more that we sort of like solve our problems by going, what is the underlying cause? Oh, I'm overweight. I'm super fat. It's causing me hypertension and diabetes and some, chronic pulmonary issues. Maybe I could just reduce the amount of vascularity that my body has to feed. I recommend it 100%. There are certain diets that will reduce inflammation and you will feel great. You should do some of these things. It's almost free to you. It actually costs less than paying for insurance when you start realizing that people are paying $25,000, $40,000 a year in insurance. Why? It's free to just walk around. It's literally funded by your own calories, which you're probably eating anyway. Anyway, open enrollment for the ACA began last month, and many Americans experienced the sticker shock upon receiving their annual notices and discovering that their 2026 premiums would be increasing because the government is no longer on the scale. They've already run up the cost, and now we're going to look at what it really costs, and there it is. At the same time, enhanced premium tax credit under the ACA, which lower the monthly payments for premiums for 22 million Americans. Read that as we are subsidizing 22 million Americans. They're set to expire, and it's unclear if Congress will take action to extend them or whether they can at all. Yeah, well, in a nationally representative sample, a survey of 1,350 United States American adults between 18 and 64, it was conducted in mid-November, just a couple of weeks ago, found that Americans are reconsidering coverage on the ACA marketplaces. That would be the best thing in the world. This has just been a subsidized program for mostly corporate businesses. I've seen this analysis of SNAP, and maybe you guys have as well, where it's like a bunch of Americans who are in the middle class right here pay SNAP benefits, like it comes out of their paycheck, and they pay them to lower income Americans, and the lower income Americans turn around and pay them to major corporations, which go to the upper income Americans. And so the middle class funds and subsidizes the upper and the lower. That's kind of how this always works. You bankrupt the middle class. This is not like it's not by design. You can see this stuff in real time and you just go, oh, that's what's happening. Do you think that health insurance companies are not making money on you? Of course they are. And they're making it coming and going. Under ACA, they're taking your money whether or not you want to or not. I'm subsidizing it even though I don't have health insurance. And yeah, I don't have health insurance. Crazy. I lost my health insurance with the FBI on June 1st of 2022. And here I am still alive. And by the way, we had a baby since then. And she's still alive. She's thriving. She came down and gave me a big hug this morning and gave me like a little, dissertation on what happened last night when she was dreaming. It's crazy. You can actually live without health insurance if you take care of your body. It's almost like if you were responsible for your own thing, then you'd be good. And if you weren't, then you wouldn't be. I don't know. I just see this stuff as yet another example of they make people feel like really emotional. They make people wonder and they fear. And is there anything we can do? The government solution is always more government, which is what it's talking about. Can we get more subsidies for the subsidies that have expired so that people can continue to have the thing that they probably don't actually need? And if they didn't have it, suddenly they would realize, holy moly, I actually didn't use health insurance. Just think about how much you actually would spend if you went to an individual doctor or emergency care unit at any time in your year. And if it turns out that it's like more money than you would spend on the insurance, maybe spend the insurance. But if it's not, and you're just living on the fear that something bad might happen, put the money away and invest it. Turns out it works out really well. You can actually do that and get some tax advantages. All right. In that same sort of vein, the government created a problem. Now the government has to solve the problem. I see Representative Jayapal, who is a Democrat out of Washington, doing one of my favorite things in the world, which is restricting the ability of the federal government to do the work of the federal government. Normally, I'd be okay with that, except this is actually one of the real functions that the federal government's supposed to have. Getting people who don't belong in this country and getting them the hell out. Kind of like the Afghan refugee scenario. Like maybe we really should have done that. Does it take another law? No, it would have taken people doing the thing correctly in the first place. Here she is introducing a bill that will restrict the ability to detain illegal aliens in this nation. So we have rules that say you can't come here illegally, but if you do come here illegally, we want to take away the penalty and make sure that we can't do anything about it. I can't see a more government answer. And of course, not trying to pick on women, but it does turn out that on the left, it's mostly women that are voicing this. There's something really interesting that Jordan Peterson once said. He said, you know that when women become the predominant force in any otherwise previously competitive field, you know that men have left the field. Consider that as you listen to this woman speak.
Today, to say enough. Our Dignity for Detained Immigrants Act has a remarkable, unprecedented 123 original co-sponsors. Before we've even introduced it, 123 co-sponsors, and it overhauls the detention system. It drastically scales back the use of detention. It ensures that every single immigrant who is in detention has their human and civil rights protected. Our bill also phases out the use of private for-profit detention centers. It prohibits the detention of children and families and makes it harder to detain primary caregivers and vulnerable people like pregnant women or seniors or workers who are whistleblowing on unscrupulous employers. It requires DHS to allow members of Congress to do our jobs and conduct those unannounced inspections that hold these facilities accountable. As an immigrant myself,
Yeah, as an immigrant yourself, I don't need you doing inspections. You should just be passing single issue budgets. Stop making more laws that solve problems that you created. I don't need it. I don't require that of you. And neither do your constituents, to be fair. But we've construed that job to be something where your job is to be oversight and caring, as opposed to the actual job, which is legislation. You're the legislative branch, if you only knew your job description. Wouldn't it be nice if we actually held them to their job description and we're like, hey, these are all like fringe. These are what we used to call collateral duties, this oversight BS. How about you just write the bill that funds the individual government agency one at a time, and then we can look and be like, oh, you suck. We don't want you doing that anymore. Downvote. More on that in a minute. If women are stepping into the places where men have left, there's places where men probably always should be, and that's the Pentagon. And a Pentagon watchdog group found that Pete Hegseth's Signal Chat, aka Signalgate chat, violated regulations, and it could have endangered troops, sources say. The best part is it didn't actually endanger troops, not even a little bit, because they were fine. The mission was successful. Nothing bad happened. That's kind of amazing. Pentagon's internal watchdog group, which is the Office of the Inspector General, they were notably absent when Joe Biden dropped an illegal mandate on troops and civilian employees requiring that they got the COVID vaccine shots. Where were they on that? That was an illegal order, as declared by this current Secretary of War, aka Secretary of Defense. So why do we care what they say about this? And remember what they're seizing on here. The Signal Chat violated regulations. Regulations are not necessarily law. They certainly didn't mean that it actually put anybody in danger. That's the whole point about the classified thing. I want to read the story through. This is from CBS. We're going to have one more CBS story later on about the pipe bomb thing if we get to it. Individuals who spoke to CBS News said the report found that the former Fox News host turned defense secretary violated Defense Department policies when he used his personal device for official business, transmitting sensitive U.S. government information to other Trump officials and the editor-in-chief for the Atlantic magazine. A couple interesting things in this. I like that they highlight the fact that he is a former Fox News host turned Secretary of War, which because they've changed the name and they keep calling it defense because they like to do that. That's fine. It's interesting that they highlight the Fox News part and not the military experience part, and not the part that there are really actually important things that go on at the individual level, at the soldier, at the enlisted level where the actual work gets done, which is, you know, breaking things and hurting feelings overseas. That is the work of our military. We've tried to act like it's not. But that's what the military does. In fact, you're actually seeing some of the military's work in Yemen on the screen right now. That's what it does. Destroy buildings, burn out cars, kill enemy combatants, smash boats in the water. I don't know. Like, take your pick. It's a destroying agency. When someone asks me, whoa, why did you join the military when you were 27? I'm like, I had this incredible urge to destroy or create. And I'm not creating anything yet. I did that afterwards. I had some babies. Before that, I was in destroy mode. I was a 27-year-old, red-blooded, testosterone-laden male who wanted to break things and hurt feelings. So you go to the military so you could do that without going to jail. That's a common thing for many of you who are enlisted. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. You're like, why did you want to go shoot guns? It's like, I wanted to go shoot guns and not go to jail. That's not the same thing. All right. These individuals said that there's a classified version of the Inspector General's report, which was sent to Congress. The unredacted version is expected to be released on Thursday, and it says that there was a policy violation. but not law. But in the spokesperson, this is Sean Parnell, who we had on, we played a little clip from the other day. He said it's a total exoneration. I'm going to play you that clip. He sat down with Breonna Morello, and he frames it differently than violated regulations. Sean barely fits into that jacket, by the way. If you guys are watching this, if you're not, you should be. So join us on Spotify where you can flip to the video. He's got like guns that are filling up this jacket so much. He barely fits into it. This is a great look. He's like sitting there kind of like flexing out of this suit and being like, no, we're exonerated. Listen to the way we frame it. And I think this is not unfair.
I kind of want to get your take on the Signal Gate.
Yeah.
Obviously, the IG report being leaked out there. Are you happy with the report?
Of course. I mean, so you remember the narrative back in March, I think, when the Signal stuff broke, was that the secretary shared classified information and broke the law, and shared classified war plans and put American troops at. I mean, obviously, like what the IG report shows now is that the secretary did not share classified information, and did not break the law. And to me, and not just to me, I mean, the secretary has been totally exonerated. I mean, the narrative that the media pushed back then in the heat of the Signalgate stuff was fake, and today that narrative has been exposed.
Let's just go to what that narrative was. Here it is, April 8th, 2025. The Signalgate chat group may be evidence of a U.S. war crime. No. It wasn't just that he exposed secret information. By the way, it was secret, no foreign, which is a normal delineating class. That's the regular work that I used to deal with on the national security side for the FBI. It's everyday stuff, and it's massively overclassified. But here's the funny thing. There's all kinds of things that are secret, no foreign, that you can, quote unquote, talk around. People do it all the time. And I'm probably going to get some crap from people that are in the national intelligence sphere that really think that all classification is super important. That is not my experience. So we can agree to disagree politely on that. I did not find that every single thing that was considered classified had any business being classified. Now, maybe I just didn't know enough about it. But the odds are your whole like sources and methods thing, it's overdone. And by the way, the current FBI director agreed with me at the time and probably still should, whether or not he says it. Long and short. The claim is that there was information which was derived from top secret or from secret no foreign information, and therefore the things that he shared were in fact derivative and therefore should have been classified as a derivative. Meh. Maybe so. Or maybe not. Or maybe there was a war crime, which is what this is World Politics Review said in April of 2025. This is months ago. It says last week that the Inspector General announced a probe. Obviously, we just got the results of the probe. No war crime, no crime at all. And I'm not a big fan of having government agencies investigate themselves either. So I don't even know if this was a good one. I just know that like claiming the narrative is that there was a policy violation. That's pretty weak. Usually when there's a violation of law, they'll say that there's probable cause to believe that there was, or based on our adjudicative standard, which is usually preponderance of the evidence, the Inspector General will say, yes, there was a crime and we referred it to the appropriate authorities, generally speaking, either FBI or it's going to go over to DOJ through Army CID or Pentagon Force Protection or something. End of the day, they didn't do any of those things. They didn't allege that a crime took place, which I think is vindication. And I think Sean Parnell is probably correct on that. They said the more enduring concern, however, and largely lost in the ensuing controversy of what the Signalgate chat group said, it revealed that the Trump administration's operational plans themselves, a strike on a civilian apartment building that allegedly killed 53 civilians, was an effort to kill a single military commander in a conflict that was arguably of little genuine military or political significance to U.S. interest. Well, it turns out that they don't get to make that call. This is just a politics, left-leaning politics organization. And that's not what the Inspector General concluded. So it's been launched. No war crime has been alleged. No war crime has been discovered. And no referral for prosecution has happened. They're still pushing the same thing regarding the Boatgate thing, and you guys may have been following this as well in the news. There is a drug boat. It got hit a second time. Anybody who's ever seen even just like YouTube footage of like an Apache gunship coming in and strafing a target, destroying, they keep shooting until things are stopped moving. It's the same reason why you can keep shooting somebody until the threat is over. A guy may be down on the ground, and he may be functionally dead for all you know. But if he still has a weapon system in his hand and you can't tell that he's dead, you can still deliver lethal force because he still represents a reasonable belief that there's danger there. And so you're going to hear people go back and forth. There'll be like leftist JAG people, and there'll be people like that lady that I showed you on earlier who have certain feelings about the way the military is supposed to operate. And then you have other people who will be use of force experts, and they'll say, obviously, the truth on the ground is, and there'll be people in the chat who can confirm it. Calling an airstrike, you hit them once, you hit them twice, like you hit them until there's no more threat there, period. And if the president is going out there and drone striking things, it does seem a little bit hypocritical and pretty weak that people on the political left who were 100% behind Black Jesus Barack Obama doing drone strikes on actual Americans, like actual American citizens, you know, the same kind that they're defending in Minneapolis and saying are real productive members of our society. Like those kind of people got drone striked. Nobody seemed to cry about that. The extrajudicial killing was not a big issue. So let's talk about those clowns. Here we go. How fraud swamped Minnesota's social services system. This is coming from the New York Times, and they're even claiming it was on Tim Walz's watch. How did this guy even end up as a potential vice presidential candidate, let alone the actual vice presidential candidate, let alone he was like, you know, potentially someone who could have got elected. He's such a clown whenever I see him. He even like gave up the ground on the actual flag for the state of Minnesota, which looks now more like a Somali flag. I sent it to one of my buddies who moved out of Minnesota specifically because of Walz, who ran a business there. And all of his response was essentially a couple of prepositions and then expletives, which I will not repeat because it was so profane. But that's kind of how most people feel. Let's get the story from local news. This is going back to April of 2024. And apparently now it's relevant. This seems like it should have been really relevant during the presidential campaign.
The first 7 defendants in this massive case are standing trial together, and their portion of the alleged scam is centered in Shakopee. At a strip mall just off the main drag in Shakopee, where Empire Cuisine and Market used to be located, Abdi Aziz Farah and Mohammed Ismail claimed to serve millions of meals to Minnesota kids in 2020 and 2021. This portion of the alleged Feeding Our Future scheme involved $30 million in federal funds for which they weren't entitled, money laundering, extravagant purchases, and the help of 6 other defendants, according to federal prosecutors. Like many of the anecdotes made public in the $250 million Feeding Our Future case, some of the things the defendants in this first trial are accused of doing border on absurd. Prosecutors say the defendants claim to be serving meals to kids in places that make no sense, such as this big parking lot in Shakopee, or in derelict commercial spaces like this. According to court documents, the defendants created sham meal count sheets and phony attendance rosters with children names such as Man Sincere, Ron Donald, or even John Doe. Names the Shakopee School District is expected to testify don't exist in their schools. Then, what was done with the money? Prosecutors say they will trace how the defendants used the federal money to buy vehicles, real estate, a down payment on a $2.5 million home build, and a honeymoon in the Maldives. The 2 main defendants were also charged with passport fraud, and Ismail pleaded guilty to that. But as to the alleged meal fraud, attorneys for the defendants say they did not knowingly defraud the government.
Well, they didn't knowingly defraud the government, so, you know, they were just accidentally defrauding them to the tune of tens of millions of dollars and then using government money for all their luxury living. All right, sure, whatever. How the fraud system was swamped. Wait, is there a response maybe from the congressional representative from that area? I bet CNN would do a hard-hitting interview on this.
Shed any light on why the fraud got so out of control in Minnesota?
I think what happened is that, you know, when you have these kind of new programs that are designed to help people, you're oftentimes relying on third parties to be able to facilitate. And I just think that a lot of the COVID programs that were set up, they were set up so quickly that a lot of the guardrails did not get created.
Well, that explains it. I'm going to do it in a different way. A bunch of people from Africa are scammers, and they were scammers when they lived in a crappy shithole country, and then they continue to be scammers when they came to the United States because they bring no functional skills and they never integrated into American society, and they didn't want to take part in American commerce in an honorable and free market way. How about that? The fraud scandal that rattled Minnesota was staggering in its scale and its brazenness. Federal prosecutors charged dozens of people with felonies, accusing them of stealing hundreds of millions of dollars from a government program that was meant to feed children during the COVID-19 pandemic. Almost like that entire pandemic was a scam on every level. By the way, we had tens of millions of dollars of fraud allegations in the Washington, D.C. area, and I don't know that they ever went anywhere, but a lot of the people that were accused of doing it, they were in fact immigrants. Some of them were Indian. Some of them were African. We would watch them. The names were all indecipherable. I can't remember not a single name because not a single person there was a white person that was raised in America. I think you have to come from another culture, or you have to be so cynical, and I don't know. Like, I didn't see this scale and the big scale stuff coming from people who were born in this country. Because honestly, I couldn't fathom doing it. And I don't know people who could. I'm sure there are crappy people in America that would do it, that were born here. But the people that we saw, big, large scale fraud, claiming that you went from having 3 employees to having 150 employees and getting payroll protection loans and all that kind of stuff, and saying that you had 150 people working at your facility, which was a big empty warehouse, which had been empty for literally years and had never done anything. It was an investment property. Oh, those people, yeah, they turned out to be, foreign born, naturalized here, green card, whatever. All right, federal prosecutors charged all these people hundreds of millions of dollars. They were supposed to feed children. At first, many in the state saw this as a one-off abuse during a health emergency, but new schemes targeting the state's generous safety net programs have come to light, and state and federal officials are trying to grapple with the jarring reality. Over the past 5 years, law enforcement officials say the fraud took root in pockets of the Minnesota Somali diaspora. It's real specific who's involved in this, as scores of individuals made small fortunes setting up companies that build state agencies for millions of dollars worth of social services that were never provided. And of course, those monies came from the federal government. And so if only we could get a response from, I don't know, the mayor of Minneapolis, he would have some strong words. I imagine he would say that scammers are the real problem here, and that this cultural problem is real. And he wants to protect American citizens that have American values, right?
That's not American. That's not what we are about. And we're going to do right by every single person in our cities. And so to our Somali community, Daman Shabka, Somalied Kunul, Minnesota, Garahan, Minneapolis, Waan, Ku Janilahai, Waan, Ku Gereb, Taganahan.
Shanahalahaga, Minnesota, screwed Ola Shalakapa, Pagana. What bullshit was that, guys? I'm just serious. Like, I don't know how to say it without a swear word. What was that? Actually, Donald Trump, God bless him, just said that guy's stupid, which is true. Here's Donald Trump's response.
Mr. President, thank you. The mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, is saying that he's actually proud to have the largest Somali community in the country, and his police chief.
Well, then he's a fool.
Well, his police chief is also saying
I wouldn't be proud to have the largest Somalian. Look at their nation. Look how bad their nation is. It's not even a nation. It's just people walking around killing each other. Look, these Somalians have taken billions of dollars out of our country. They've taken billions and billions of dollars. They have a representative, Ilhan Omar, who they say married her brother. It's a fraud. She tries to deny it now, but you can't really deny it because, it just happened. She shouldn't be allowed to be a congresswoman, and I'm sure people are looking at that. And she should be thrown the hell out of our country. And most of those people, they have destroyed Minnesota, okay? Minnesota, you have an incompetent governor. You have a crooked governor. He's crooked as hell, but he's incompetent. Waltz he should be ashamed. That beautiful land, that beautiful state, it's a hellhole right now. And the Somalians should be out of here. They've destroyed our country. And all they do is complain, complain, complain. You have her. She's always talking about the Constitution provides me with, go back to your own country and figure out.
Yeah, this is the Trump that I wanted, by the way. Go back to your own country. Get the hell out of mine. I'm fine with that. That should be the America-only position. Federal prosecutors say that 59 people have been convicted in the scheme so far, that more than $1 billion in taxpayer money has been stolen in 3 separate plots they've investigated, and that's more than Minnesota spends annually to run its Department of Corrections. The Minnesota fraud scandal stood out even in the context of rampant fraud that happened during COVID, when Americans stole tens of billions of dollars through unemployment benefits and business loans and other forms of aids. It's almost like giving money to the government is just like lighting the damn thing on fire or funding your own corruption and crime. Go figure. Outrage has swelled among Minnesotans. It's about time. What will they do about it? Probably nothing. The fraud has turned into a potential political issue during this competitive campaign season when Tim Walz and fellow Democrats are being asked to explain how much money was stolen on their watch, providing Republicans who are hopeful to take back the governor's office in 2026 a powerful line of attack. God forbid the powerful line of attack. I'm sure that we can defend this. Donald Trump is just a bigot, right? That's just what's going on. Notice the accent gets thicker, by the way. This is Ilhan Omar talking to Mehdi Hassan, who's also atrocious and is a very posh accent clown. I hate both of these people. Like, I really do. Like, I really despise that they have a voice in American politics. But listen to the accent goes thicker when she talks to someone who looks closer to her.
These people are just idiots. I really, I'm at the point where it's become really hard to have an intellectual debate with any of these people because the level of stupidity that they are displaying every single day is frankly embarrassing, not just in Congress, but as Americans. And the fact that these people are allowed to say just the most ridiculous things tells you that the dumbing of the United States has arrived, because how else do we get a Trump presidency again?
That seems very unfair, and I don't like the way that is. I want to give an American the final word on this argument, and this was put out yesterday by Michael Knowles, who said, "I promise that I won't talk politics at Thanksgiving," and then one sip of beer later, this is me.
And they contribute nothing. The welfare is like 88%. They contribute nothing. I don't want them in our country, I'll be honest with you, okay? Somebody would say, oh, that's not politically correct. I don't care. I don't want them in our country. Their country's no good for a reason. Their country stinks, and we don't want them in our country. I could say that about other countries, too. I can say it about other countries, too. We don't want them to hell. We have to rebuild our country. You know, our country's at a tipping point. We could go bad. We're at a tipping point. I don't know if people mind me saying that, but I'm saying it. We could go one way or the other, and we're going to go the wrong way if we keep taking in garbage into our country.
What did he say? He didn't want to take in garbage into this country? And then you got this. This is the chief of police for Minneapolis. This is the mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Fry. And then this is their official Somali spokesperson who's out there speaking in whatever the hell language this is. I'm not trying to be mean, but I don't care if it is mean. Because this is truly offensive to me. Like, what are you doing? Oh, 911. Got it. I know that part. I can do that. Press 1 for Somali, press 2 for Spanish, press 3 for English. Is that where we're at here? In Minneapolis, Minnesota? Guys, this happened in my lifetime. So, yeah, I think Trump's right on this one. It's not the only place. This is not just like suicidal empathy. This is getting homicidal. Yeah, anyway, so there's that. So when Donald Trump is taking crap from people on this one, like I said, I'm kind of quirky. I'm disappointed with Donald Trump because he didn't go as hard as he should. As a guy who's like fighting for his life and is not going to get another shot at this, like, what's the worst case scenario? Destroy all of this crap. End all of these programs. I had a clip of Ilhan Omar claiming something about how she was they didn't want to bring in more refugees in this first round. He was racist then. It's like, okay, yeah, no, we were all behind that. I think anybody that converted their vote from 2016, and I'm one of them. I was like Gary Johnson, don't like Trump, don't like Hillary. Anybody who looked at those two choices in 2016 and was like, I'll just vote for the Libertarian and maybe they'll get, maybe they'll get on some public funding in the future. That kind of thing. That's where I was at. And then he comes in and he's like, yeah, we're going to do a Muslim ban. And I'm like, do it. Do that, please. Are you going to ban people that don't belong in this country? Yes. Let's make it so. How do we get more of that idea? Because that's what made sense to me. And if you're going to do that, you can get my vote in 2020. And you can get it in 2024 if you claim you're going to do it. So go harder, not softer. Because this is California. This is where California is going with this. Because you're mean. We need to now protect all the illegals. We need to protect the Somalis. We need to protect not America. Because that's what America does. America protects not America. if you're on the other side.
I'm Rob Bonta, California Attorney General, and I want to say thanks for being here. We are here to announce a new tool that we are launching today to protect the rights, the safety, the dignity of all Californians throughout the state during a time of profound uncertainty and a time of profound fear. Today we're launching an online portal where members of the public can report potentially unlawful conduct by federal agents operating in our state. And we encourage Californians who have concerns about the law being broken, a federal officer breaking the law, to report to us so we can assess the information. Over the last 10 months, we've seen troubling reports coming from communities across California, including unmarked military-style vehicles and individuals detained in ways that resemble abductions and kidnappings more than lawful arrests. Californians are scared, and they're right to question whether federal agents are respecting the law as they carry out the Trump administration's aggressive, fear-driven immigration.
Remember, they're Minnesotans, they're Californians, they're not Americans, they're not here legally, but that's what they're going to call them. Why? Because we're going to always blur the line, and of course, everybody who does it is basically a woman or like really effeminate, which is what we just saw there. Apparently, he's married to a lady. I saw it, whatever. Nobody there holds the line. And again, this is what the appeal of Donald Trump was. This is why Donald Trump won probably both times, 2020 and 2024. It was like, don't be nice. We have a real problem here. Fight like you're going to die if you don't win. Because some people are going to die. Because billions of dollars in one little state like Minnesota got taken away. We have another one of these problems that is occurring. If you guys don't realize this, there's another one of these things that is popping up. Actually, let me give you this quick little moment because this is going to be relevant. This was the special election in Tennessee that we talked about yesterday. She lost. Her name's like Afton Brennan, whatever the heck her name is. I'll look it up again. Scott Jennings was asked about it. The defense is that she holds a left-leaning mainstream opinion, which is defund the police. It's basically like compassion over any sort of sensibility. It is no worry about rule of law. It would be forgive. It's just their culture to steal and all the other kind of awful things, a suicidal, empathetic idea. Fine. And Caitlin Collins, at CNN, she does her best to excuse that behavior and then watch the Scott Jennings destroy. We haven't had Scott Jennings clip in a while, so this one's kind of fun. What you say when you are not in office still holds water if you don't walk away from it. What you say when you're running for a different political office still holds water if you don't walk away from it. It's the reason why we actually take these people at their words, because they don't actually abandon these positions. And so this is kind of a funny little takedown of it. And that's going to lead me to something on the right, quote unquote, right, which makes me sick as well. And this is the fool that is running for Congress in my district. So it's actually very personal, even though it's kind of a national story. Enjoy this.
Can I ask you on that? Because you said that she ran on defund the police. There were her past comments on that, but she said that was basically when she was a private citizen, before she was representing the state legislature. I mean, that wasn't like a core tenet of her campaign. She talked about affordability. So I think my question is do you really think that's what every Democrat looks like? I mean, I don't think that was the main, that was something, the criticism of hers, obviously, in past comments, but that wasn't the, tenet of her campaign or anything.
She got asked about it repeatedly and refused to back away from it. And look, I'm just telling you, this is what Democrats believe and this is what their base wants. It's why she wouldn't go back on it. I was just a private citizen. Oh my gosh, we've never held what you said as a private citizen against you in a political campaign. For goodness sakes, what a ridiculous way to just maintain a position that nobody likes. This is the median Democrat position. She is the median Democrat candidate, and that's what their base wants. So that's what we're in for, and Republicans need to draw bright lines on this stuff in every race in the country.
I don't disagree with him. By the way, did you notice that when she was saying that, he cocked his head the way that a German Shepherd does when you say something that's kind of ridiculous, like, hey, we're going to go to the park. And they're like, the park? My park? They cock their ears all funny. He couldn't help himself. Jennings is amusing because he has some good mannerisms for television. It takes a little bit of time to earn that or to work that up. But his stuff is fun, and he's obviously correct. And this is something that nobody ran away from. Again, representing non-Americans over the interests of Americans because that's the American thing to do. That's a hell of a pitch, but that is the pitch. It's this compassion-based sort of shame. It's making people live up to the standard of their Christian values, even though the people that are claiming that you should do it are not Christian, right? That's the move. There's something that happens on the other side of the coin, which is very, very obvious if you're paying attention, and it's really ugly and dangerous. And this is also an audience over accuracy issue. Again, there's a huge audience for that median Democrat position he's talking about. I don't think it's the biggest audience, but it is big enough that people continue to do it. So they don't run away from it. They don't shy away and go like, oh, no, I was wrong. Sorry about that. No, they believe that there's enough audience for it that they can maintain that that is an accurate or a reasonable position. Going back to the original sort of claim that we made here. Today, we have another dangerous, I think, possibility where somebody has taken on, I would call it the most cartoonish, cardboard cutout, one-dimensional, like if you were going to draw what you thought a retarded right-wing person would be, you would draw and create the male version of Valentina Gomez. Instead, she is the female version of it. So we have an immigrant to this country who speaks and sounds like a foreigner, doing a bad impression of what she thinks someone who looks like me and grew up like me and went to the military like me and carried a gun for the United States government like me would be like. And we have a real scary moment where, again, if men are not in this race, and by the way, there are men and there are much better men that are candidates in like the current Republican holding that seat in District 31 for Texas is not my favorite, but there are other options. Like almost anybody would be better. I'd rather have Dan Crenshaw than this woman, and I mean that very seriously. I would vote for Dan Crenshaw. He's not running in that district, but if he was, I would vote Dan Crenshaw over this lady. I want you to see what gets put out there from the other side, the right-wing side of it. This is equally dumb. So we want to have equal opportunity to address dumb. This is it. Valentina Gomez.
There are 5 million Muslims in the United States. Why would you want to categorize them in such a grotesque manner?
Oh, and those 5 million Muslims should definitely go back to their 56 Muslim nations. And let's get something very clear right now in your little show, Piers. I don't fear the groomers. I don't fear the pedophiles. I don't fear the corrupt politicians. And I definitely do not fear the dirty Muslims.
Let me bring in...
Can I jump in here real quick?
Yeah, you can, yeah.
No.
I mean, we should be clear about the fact. I mean, sure, Valentina is just a bigot, plain and simple, engages in the worst kinds of bigotry imaginable. But it's worth noting that she's fundamentally un-American because the American Constitution says that you cannot discriminate against people based on religion. That is pretty clear. And so she's engaging in an anti-American campaign in the name of protecting America, which is just irony beyond imagination. So yes, she's a charlatan. She doesn't know what she's talking about. You can tell by looking at her that her IQ hovers around room temperature. To me, the real scandal is not engaging with her directly because she's beneath taking seriously. But the problem is with the GOP, that you have a major party in this country having a candidate running under its flagship, engaging in this kind of really incredibly hateful, incendiary rhetoric, and they do nothing about it. We've seen...
This is the problem. When you have a deliberately, stupidly, unserious human being like this woman is, who has zero principles and her only thing is chasing audience, which is what it appears to me is going on there. This is the danger. The danger is you get someone who says something that they think is going to resonate with a voting base, but actually has no principle whatsoever. And so they say things that are incendiary, and it gets a lot of attention. And you get to go talk on Piers Morgan, and you get someone on the left actually making a pretty sensible, like I'm far more likely to agree with the guy on the right, even though I didn't like anything that he has to say. And I know that he's not an honest operator. His ad hominems actually hit really, really well because she's an unserious fool. I'm going to give you a little bit of a taste of where she comes from. This is her message to me, a voter in Texas 31. She's blocked me on social media, by the way, because I've called out what a just slimy sack of shit she is. There's no other way around it. By the way, she lost, she got destroyed in a similar race. She went for the Secretary of State position in Missouri and got blown out. So she moved to where I am right now to run for office again. I don't know what her function is or her job or how she makes money. As I understand it, she comes from a pretty wealthy family. Again, she's an immigrant. And she thinks that this cartoonish version of what Americans is going to resonate. It better not resonate in Texas. It better not, Texans. You guys can do better than this. This is where it is, and I'm going to show you why it's so bad.
Texas, I've officially filed to become your next congresswoman. So the choice is yours. Vote for me so we can kick every dirty Muslim out of Texas, save your daughters from getting raped by Mohammed, and protect our soldiers from getting murdered in broad daylight. Let me be very clear. We will make Texas the worst place for groomers, terrorist Muslims, pedophiles, and illegals to live in, so help me God. For me, this is just an election. But for you and your daughter, this is your life. Because Texas has only gotten more Muslim under these weak Republicans. New York City already fell to Islam. So did Michigan and Minnesota. And you're next in line. If Texas falls to Islam, it's simply because you didn't vote correctly. God bless you all.
Oh my God. It's so bad. It's powered by Jesus Christ. If you guys couldn't see that, that's what it said. Powered by Jesus Christ. This is the most cringeworthy, desperate. You're a woman who weighs what? Like 120 pounds? I could choke slam you with one hand. I need you to protect me and my daughters and American soldiers who look like this. We need you. Some chick who came from another country, which is corrupt. Hard pass. She's going to be on the ballot as Valentina Gomez Noriega. You don't even speak English without an accent. You didn't come here recently enough. We don't require you to say things like dirty Muslims. We can say that there's an incompatibility with Islam and the West. And we can say it like honest, straightforward, non-emotional bullshit language like that. So gross. And here's the other funny thing. She used to have a different little take on things. And then she went very recently and took a bunch of money, apparently from AIPAC. That's what I'm reading. Don't quote me on it because I haven't gone and looked into the things, but I'll go look at it later. I know she's not going to get my vote. But she made this initial claim about, oh, we've got to make sure that we resist the dirty Jews. That was her previous claim. And then they were like, hey, would you like to come to Israel and kiss the wall and do the other thing? And she was like, yeah. And then she went on an Israel tour. So this is kind of a fun little expose of who she is. It's just kind of fun from her previous positions to her current positions. This woman is doing everything she can to chase that one thing that I find most destructive. She's chasing audience, and she's decided that if the audience likes it, then that means there's accuracy in the position that she holds, regardless of the fact that she didn't have that same position 5 seconds ago.
Who is Valentina Gomez?
Israel has influence on both sides of the political aisle in American politics. For that reason, I will never be taking $1 from AIPAC because my allegiance is to the people, to the Constitution, and most importantly, to God. My morals and integrity are not for sale. I need the Lions of America to wake up and help me take this nation back from the weak men and women that have sent our sons and daughters to die in wars that they profit from. General Flynn said it best, when there's war, there's a failure in diplomacy. And under President Trump, the world was at I firmly stand with Israel. As part of a military family, we do not want World War III. The United States should take swift actions against the coordinated attacks on Israel. Under President Trump, the world was at peace. And now with Biden, innocent lives are about to be executed because of his weak and corrupt leadership. The United States and Israel will prevail. I didn't have the blessing of being born in America or even call myself a Texan, but you can't tell me that I don't care about Texas. Just stupid rock.
You didn't have the blessing of being born in Texas or America, and you're not a Texan, and you don't represent any positions of anybody that I know. That woman should not be successful. Our sons and daughters going off to war? What is she talking about? I can't remember. I think she's like 26 or 27 years old. She just got married within the last year. Nothing conservative about it. Runs around saying ridiculous things. Her big campaign push when she was in Missouri is that she shot an effigy of what she claimed was like a Muslim or a migrant to this country because she was a border attacker at that point in time. Do not fall for this kind of crap. It's so gross. But what it is that obvious mistaking of if I have enough audience, then I must be right. This is when social media should not translate into reality because she's got a pretty good social media following. Why? She says inflammatory stuff. She says mean things. There are people who say mean things and they actually have much better principles on it. I got one example, and then we're going to wrap up here. I'm going to go, we're not going to talk tons about the pipe bomber story because as I can tell right now, or let me just do a refresh. I've been watching it. I don't see any new information, no names. Let me just scroll here. I'm looking at the story. Yeah, there's no information that's being put out about it other than they said they've made an arrest. CBS has claimed it. I haven't seen the FBI claim it just yet. I'm looking at the CBS story. It's put out there by Daniel Klaidman. I like Dan. He and I have talked. We just talked this morning, and I was like, what are the details? And he's like, ugh. It's like, dude, don't snow me. You know better than this. Scott McFarland, I don't actually respect there. Joe Walsh is also on the storyline. I don't think that there's a story there yet. And when it does, and we may do like a live stream this afternoon because I think it'll be worth it. It'll be fun. It'll be fun to debrief. You guys are saying in the chat that this is someone called Brian Cole. Fine, I'll look into it. We're going to do another stream on that altogether. We'll just show the fact pattern that makes no sense at all. Okay, so last little bit here of the same sort of attitude, right? This is the way that you say things that are offensive with actually a storyline behind it, instead of just saying it for shock value. This was Tucker talking to Piers who said he's not going to have Valentina Gomez back on if she loses her race. God willing, she will. Hopefully she doesn't even make it through the primary. That should be the right way. Tucker and Piers Morgan had this interaction, which is kind of salacious in so much as they use words that make people, but the point is actually that there's a point there. The point is that you don't have freedom. Listen to this. You guys probably heard this before, but I think it's fun, and I'll give you the context. Because in Piers Morgan's defense, which is hard for me to actually fathom that I'm doing, he actually brought this woman on after, and I'll show you that too.
Elizabeth Kinney from Tranmere. Have you read about this?
Go on.
She's a mother of 4. I think she's a nurse, and she gets beaten up by her boyfriend. He beats her up. She goes to the hospital, and she texts someone, a buddy of hers, a friend of hers, a girlfriend of hers, and describes the man who beat her up and sent her to the hospital as a, quote, faggot. It's a faggot. Mm-hmm. And she's arrested and convicted of a hate crime. The guy who beat her up is not arrested or convicted. And then she goes through this whole kabuki, which is now required, where she prostrates herself before the judge. I'm sorry, it was not a homophobic rant. By the way, you're allowed to be homophobic if you want in a free country. You can have any view you want. But no, because she used the word faggot, she's arrested, and the guy who punched her in the face was not. That story tells you everything.
Well, I don't know that story. If it's exactly...
Daily Mail, baby.
Okay.
Pictures of her and everything.
I'm not doubting it. I'm just saying I need to look into it. But if that is how you've told it, obviously it's ridiculous.
Would you say the word faggot on camera?
No.
Why?
Because
you don't want to get arrested, do you?
Doesn't want to be arrested.
Because it's so harmful to people?
No.
Is that like gay bashing? What's wrong with that?
No, actually, my whole issue with the whole trans debate, for example, is you don't need to slide into actually saying derogatory stuff about trans people to make the point that women's rights should be protected. You don't need to...
Well, I agree.
So what? I don't believe...
No, but it's a magic word.
I don't believe in needlessly sneering.
Well, I'm not smearing anybody. I just think...
But why would you use that word?
Faggot?
Yeah.
I just did.
Yeah, but would you
faggot,
use
faggot.
Okay, but why?
And I'm using it because you're not allowed to, because you're...
I'm allowed to.
Go ahead.
I don't want to.
Say, I love gay people. Faggot.
I'm allowed to. I just choose not to.
This chick just got arrested for it and convicted.
Right.
So that doesn't have a chilling effect on your ability to...
There are people watching this who will be offended by the use of the word
I'm sure
chick.
they will. I'm not anti-gay. I never have been. I can use any freaking word I want.
Offended by the use of the word chick.
Chick. Okay, whatever.
How dare you be so sexist comparing women to chicks?
How about this? Let my life, the way that I actually live and treat people, be the testament to my heart. That's how I feel.
Okay, fine. So what's that story? Isn't that relevant? Isn't that the way that you do things that are salacious? Instead of saying dirty Muslim or saying words that are like offensive to people, you say it because like, hey, there's a reason there, and we're proving that there's actually a principle behind it. He's not just saying faggot for the sake of saying it. He's saying like, this is the story. This woman got arrested. By the way, here's the woman's story, which I think is relevant. And this is the end result of that feminine instinct to coddle people and accommodate cultures that have no business being here. The end result is that women push that, or feminine instincts in men, which is the same thing, and they end up actually hurting actual women. So it's really self-defeating, which is why we have this imbalance. We continue to talk about an imbalance between the left and the right. The imbalance is a failure to accommodate for both masculine and feminine. And in this country, we've tipped so far to the feminine, and the idea that if the crowd agrees with it, then it's good and it must be true and it must be right, that we have that real problem. the hope is that a Donald Trump type character was a pushback against it. Men don't mind being the only person standing there, generally speaking. Like strong men do not. They're like, everyone, all of you are wrong. I may be the only person thinking differently, but I know that it needs to be said. It's very rare that we see women do that thing for men. And when women are doing it, it means that I think our society is disordered. That is actually the role, the job of men, is to stand against the masses, because men can actually do that. Women require civility and connections and social acceptance to be able to raise children. That's kind of like the way that our species is set up. Anyway, here's Piers Morgan talking to this woman.
I've heard 11 police officers turned up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's completely ridiculous.
Yeah, I'd left my front door open. I was waiting for my dad to come to the house. I was actually in the bath.
And 11
they opened the door themselves.
And just came in?
And came in.
And you're in the bath?
Yeah.
And what do they say to you?
Well, I heard my name, which was one female out of the lot of them.
And 10 male officers?
Yeah. And then I heard my name, and I thought, oh, it might be my sister, because it didn't sound like someone who was, because obviously I was upstairs in the bath. And then they just come up the stairs, and they didn't give me any privacy or anything. Like I had to.
You were naked?
Yes.
How did that make you feel?
Disgusted and really upset. I was crying my eyes out.
And what did they say to you? What did they say they were there for?
Well, I was just asking them, can they just leave the female officer, and can they please go downstairs? As obviously I was upset, and I had no clothes on, and they kind of wanted to watch me get changed, and I was very upset about that. In the end, they did send the males down the stairs, and the female officer sat with me. I was crying my eyes out. I was really upset, and then I said, well, what are you even here for? Because I was shocked. I was in utter shock. And she said, for malicious communications, hate crime and malicious communications. And I said, well, what for? And they said, we'll discuss that when we get to the police station.
Right. That's when things are backwards. That's when things don't make any bit of sense. That's hard for me to handle. I just did a couple of little things while those clips were playing, looking into a Brian Cole. I don't know if it's the right Brian Cole, but I'm very much looking forward to seeing this case come out there. And for whatever it's worth on the J6 stuff, again, just take a deep breath here. Just remember, we had people make the claim for 4 straight years that there was no way we could find this person. And the claim is that he lived in Woodbridge, Virginia, right down the street, and he was never a threat to the public, and they never went after him ever again. And he never dropped another bomb, and the Capitol Police officers had no problem finding 2 bombs in a very short period of time. And then that was it. They found all the bombs. Tom Massey has already talked in the background, not buying this story. What you should realize is that they, being the intelligence agencies, they, being the United States Capitol Police, were off limits to the investigation by this new January 6th committee. The new one could only form as long as nobody was allowed to look at, interview, or consider the involvement of the United States Capitol Police. That should tell you pretty much everything on there. They have aggressively made sure that U.S. Capitol Police stays out of this. When I talked to you and did an episode, go back and watch the Praetorian Guard episode. It's got a thumbnail of the Roman legionaries standing there. There are some people inside of our government, and it's not a ton of people, but they have access to all of the dirt. And the intelligence community is one of them. But the intelligence part of the United States Capitol Police and the dignitary protection people that see all the misdeeds of our Congress people that actually go out there and pull the levers, you think that they're going to let their dirt get out? That's not me making false allegations. That's telling you factually that the connections are really significant. I'll do a whole live stream on it. We might even do it this afternoon. Otherwise, I may do it with Viva if he wants to sit and talk about it, because I can run through some of this. I'm just going to show you real quickly. I have an entire page of these notes here, which you guys probably won't be able to read. Timeline, inconsistencies with any sort of other story. I'm thrilled to find out that the FBI has decided that they're going to go out there and launch a subject. And it's a dude who lived in Woodbridge, Virginia, named Brian Cole Jr. That's the story being reported right now in some of the mainstream outlets. I see it over at the New York Post. So we'll cover it when we have enough time. I don't do things on the fly like this. That leads us to misspeaking. But I'm very excited about them coming up with that. All right, I think I gave you guys, I got a palate cleanse in here somewhere, so let me make sure we got it. Let me make sure we also say you guys can support us over on Spotify. Here's where you go. It's KyleSerafinshow.com. That is the easiest way to find us. It is continuing to grow, and it is I don't know. I think it's neat. I think it's neat that you guys continue to go over to the place where we keep asking you to. We had 1,000% growth in our video reception this particular year. I'll do a whole catch up for those of you that are getting your Spotify annual wrap ups. Appreciate that. You guys are sending me along. Make sure you're subscribed to the other channels, YouTube. Make sure you're liking the videos over on Rumble, etc. I do have kind of a thing. This is a woman standing up and saying an unpopular thing, but she's saying it to women, which is where it actually belongs. Women communicating with women about the libbers. Yeah, this is kind of a dramatized version, but I don't think she's off.
Let me be clear. I am not against women succeeding. I am not against women working outside the home. That's their choice. But what I am against is a small elitist group of Northeastern establishment liberals putting down homemakers. Now, the libbers love to say that they're dedicated to choice. But if you dare to choose the path of full-time mother, well, there must be something wrong with you. I mean, if you don't feel enslaved, well, you're just dumb and unenlightened. In fact, you're not even a person. Because you see, the women's liberation movement is basically a very negative attitude toward life. It tells women, sister, the cards are stacked against you. When you wake up in the morning, you won't get a job. And if you do, it won't be a good one. And if you get a good one, you won't get promoted. And if you get married, your husband will treat you like a servant. And marriage is just a lot of dirty diapers and dirty dishes. But don't take my word for it. Read their own literature. Betty Friedan, mother of the movement, wrote in The Feminine Mystique that marriage is, and I quote, a comfortable concentration camp. But it is not enough that they're demeaning us in the press. Oh, no. Now they want to use our miraculous Constitution to create a sex-neutral society through this so-called Equal Rights Amendment, which will mean that baby girl will be drafted. And the men will be at home nursing the babies. I mean, can you imagine if Buck was left in charge of your children? Oh, God help us. Yes, that's right. It's ridiculous, and it's downright un-American. Because women are the primary caregivers in the home because we bear the children. And if the liberationists have a problem with that, they're going to have to take it up with God. Because what is going to happen if you push women out into the workforce is that women are going to find themselves with 2 full-time jobs. And they're going to be exhausted and unhappy and feel like they're not doing either well until eventually they decide not to have children at all. Maybe that's the liberationist goal. I mean, after all, their hero is Gloria Steinem, a single, childless woman nearing 40, but she is the sort of miserable, pathetic woman they aspire to be. She wants some kind of constitutional cure for her personal problems. And perhaps that is why the liberationists are trying to sow these seeds of discontent among we happily married women. They want us to join them in some new sisterhood of frustrated togetherness.
Whoa! There's a lot on there, but there's a lot that seems pretty true on that as well. You see that some of the stuff that we've said has been out there in other places too. Anyhow, I hope you guys have a great day. I'm looking forward to reading about whatever the heck they have decided to sling on us regarding the pipe bomb story, and we won't go off half-cocked, but we may go off once I dig into it, starting in about 5 minutes. God bless you. Look forward to talking to you guys again tomorrow. I think we're going to do our best to get a friendly Friday together with my buddy Steve Friend, who is still not an FBI employee, and still has not been gotten his back pay yet. See you then.
Thanks for listening to The Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram @Kyle Seraphin.